Hello, this is the video tutorial to make the business card holder on page 117. So we're starting chapter 4 here, and chapter 4 is all about advanced part modeling. Up until this point, we've pretty much only made objects with extrude boss base, revolve boss base, extrude cut, revolve cut. We've done fillets and linear patterns, circular patterns, but we're going to start learning some of these other features like swept, loft. We're also going to start using some offsets and other sketch tools that we haven't used yet. This business card holder is definitely 3D printable, so we will draw it intending to 3D print it, and that really doesn't come much into play until the very end when we decide to put our name in here. And we'll all put our name in. We'll all put our name in the front of it here. It's extrude cut in just a 32nd of an inch, and we wouldn't want to extrude cut it in anymore because then it would start having some issues with adding some material here, some support material that we wouldn't want to be in there. So alright, so let's go ahead and we'll get started. So I'm going to go up to File, New, and we're going to go up to the options, and we're going to make sure that we are in ANSI. So go ahead and go up to Options, Document Properties, make sure it says ANSI, not JIS or ISO. Make sure it says ANSI, click OK, and then also down here at the bottom we want to make sure that we're using IPS and not MMGS. So we want to be in inches, pounds, and seconds. To get started on this business card holder, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle in the top plane, and we are going to then create a new plane, reference geometry, based off the top plane, about an inch up, and then we're going to draw a slot. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So we'll go to Sketch tab, Center Rectangle, select the top plane, we'll draw out our rectangle, Smart Dimension, 3.5 and 2. Hit the purple arrow to exit the sketch. We're not going to attach a feature to the sketch yet, so there's no feature going on right now. I just exited the sketch. Okay. Now I'm going to do another sketch, but I need to do this sketch on a reference plane which we haven't created yet. So we're going to go to Features tab. We're going to go to Reference Geometry, Plane, and for our first reference we're going to click this drop down, and we are going to select the top plane. We want to offset that top plane 1 inch. Now you can see here that there's another plane on top of this top plane, and it's offset 1 inch. We'll click the green check mark. Now a plane is infinite, so it doesn't matter how big this is or how small this is. A plane continues forever. It's infinite. So the size of the plane does not matter. You could actually even have the plane all the way over here, and you would still be drawing on the plane over here. Just to prove that point, I guess I'll just leave it over there. But it really wouldn't matter if it covered the whole thing or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Sketch tab, and I am going to use my line tool, and you need to make sure that plane 1 is selected before you select the line tool. Otherwise it's going to ask you what plane do you want to draw on, and then you'll just select plane 1. But I already had it selected, so it didn't ask me what I want to draw on. Then I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, drag to the right, release the left mouse button. Going to move down, I'm going to hold down the left mouse button, release the left mouse button. I'm going to hit escape to exit the line tool. I'm going to hold down the shift key and select both lines. Now we want these lines to be equal, and the best way to do that is using the equals geometric relation. So I'm going to select that equal geometric relation, and we want to add one more geometric relation to these lines, and we want to have the endpoints be vertical from each other. So as you can see, they're not necessarily vertical from each other. Even if you drew them so they appear vertical, they're not necessarily vertical. So by holding shift and selecting two of the endpoints that are supposed to be above each other and inserting a vertical relation, they now line up. You don't need to do that to the other side because the lines are equal. So if the lines are equal and these two endpoints are on top of each other, then that means that these two must also be on top of each other. You can see that if I drag one, the other one follows along with it. Okay, now I'm going to do a tangent arc, and I'm going to select one endpoint and the endpoint below it. I am going to do the same thing over here, and if your arc is doing what mine is doing, just swing it around until it goes where you need it to go. Then I'm going to do a center line from one corner to the other. And what I'm going to use this center line for is I'm going to snap the midpoint of this center, snap the midpoint of this center line to the origin. Now, if for some reason you can't select the origin, you're probably not in the top view. So if you're slightly crooked, you see you can't select the origin. So you need to be perfectly in the top view, and then you'll be able to select the origin. So I have this line selected. I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to select the origin, and I'm going to set a midpoint relation. And you'll see now that the origin is snapped directly halfway between both endpoints, right on our center line's midpoint. I'm going to go to Smart Dimension, and I am going to set the distance between our top and bottom line to 1 inch. Going to select the top, and I'm going to set this to 3.5. And I think I must have messed up the sketch size here in this first one, so that's fine. We'll go back and change it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and approve that sketch, but as you can see, this doesn't look quite right. I must have put it in the wrong dimension here. So I'm going to go over to Sketch 1, right click, and I'm going to Edit Sketch. And this is supposed to be 5.5, not 3.5. There we go. Okay, now that looks good. Okay, now plane 1 is just in our way, so we don't want it anymore. We're just going to hide it. We're not deleting it. We're just hiding it so you can't see it. So just right click on it, select these glasses, and it'll disappear. It's still there, you just can't see it. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to use the feature Lofted Boss Base. Now this is a new feature that you guys haven't used before. What the Lofted Boss Base does is you can see in the little diagram next to it, it takes one shape and creates a solid part or a solid feature between two sketches. So I'm going to select that. It wants to know what my profiles are. So I'm going to click my drop down list, select sketch 1, select sketch 2. And then you can see these dots here. Well, these dots, they need to line up, and what I mean by that is they should be as close to each other as possible. Otherwise you might get some really funky looking shapes like that, and that's not going to work for us. So what we need to do is drag this other one to the other corner, and there we go. That is what we want. Green check mark, and there's our loft. Sometimes if you're having trouble putting those dots where they need to go, change the angle that you're looking at the part, and then sometimes that'll allow you to put the dots or the grips where they need to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to do a extrude cut. Now this extrude cut is going to be right here. That's where the business cards will go. The extrude cut will actually not have to draw it. We'll just offset this existing contour here. So I'm going to go extruded cut. I'm going to select this top surface. I'm going to go to offset entities, and I'm going to select these existing contours. Whoops. There we go. Okay, now I should have been able to do that in just one, but I accidentally clicked on the inside, which then set it to where it needs to be. We want these to be I think it's 0.2, but let me make sure. I'm looking in the book here. Yeah, 0.2. So these should be 0.2. Okay, there we go. Purple arrow, so we're fully defined, and we are going to extrude cut this all the way to the bottom almost. So we're going to do offset from surface. The surface that we want to select, the face plane, is this bottom one, and we are going to extrude cut that. This is different than what it says in the book. We're going to put 0.06. Okay, and why we're doing it different than what the book says is because later we're going to go in and shell this out, and we're going to have this shelled out in the bottom, which means we're going to remove all this material in here. But when we go to 3D print it, if we have it the way the book says, then the bottom of this is going to have support material on it. We don't necessarily want it to have support material on it, because if we set support material there, then it might potentially put support material in our name. So if we just drop this extrude down slightly deeper than what the book says, it'll make contact with the bottom of the build bed in the 3D printer, and that way it won't need support material, and we can avoid having support material in our name when we don't really need it in our name, but it might put it in anyway. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a fillet. We're going to add this fillet, but the thing about this fillet is we're going to end up having to sort of go back and change the order of where we put it in here, but we're doing this for a purpose, so that we can shell it out. So that's what the fillet's going to look like there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a shell. There it is, shell. I'm going to select this bottom face, and we're going to set our parameters to 0.06. So that's going to set the thickness of our shell to 0.06. Okay, so you can see on the inside there what that shell does to our part. Now I'm going to do a section view here so you guys can see what this looks like. Now you can see, since we had this filleted already, it shelled to the fillet. Okay, so we would have a nice rounded curve there. However, if we did the shell first and then we did the fillet, so if we reorder these, then you'll see what happens is, so this is saying, okay, we shelled it, and now we're going to do the fillet up here. Well, what happens is it fillets the outside, but it doesn't fillet the inside. So then you have a weak point here where it could potentially snap easy. So what we want is we want to do it in the order that we did it, but I'm just illustrating for you what would happen if you did it backwards, if you did the fillet first. I'm sorry, if you did the shell first. And it is also, I wanted to show you guys how you can reorder certain features. And now I just reordered that fillet to occur before that shell so that you guys can see that now the shell includes that fillet, so we have that constant 0.06, whereas before, if we were to do the shell first, we wouldn't have that constant 0.06, it would be something else. And just for the heck of it, let's just see what that measurement would be. It would be, well, it's showing me in metric. .0529, where so it's like it's 0.004, not 0.004, 0.003 different, so it's 3 thou off. Not a big deal, but you know, we would like it to be right. So I'm just going to reorder that so now it's correct, and we can measure that again just so you guys can see that it is going to be 0.06. Okay, so next what we can do is I'll exit my section view. Okay, so here's our business card holder. It's looking pretty good, but it would look even cooler if it had your name on it. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a reference plane, and we need to create this reference plane off the front view, or the front plane. And it doesn't matter how far out this plane is as long as it's off the part. Okay, so it could be a million miles away, or it could be like 1/10 of an inch off the part. It doesn't really matter as long as that front, as long as your new plane is based off the front plane as its first reference, and it's off of the part. We wouldn't want the plane on the part. And the reason why is because then it would potentially, we might not be able to get our entire name on there. It might cut off the bottom of it. So what we're going to do is we are going to extrude cut our name into this part. And the reason why we need this plane is because if you do an extrude cut and you try to select this face, you try to draw a line on it, you can get that line there. But the way it's going to cut in is at an angle following this face, and we want it to cut in nice and straight. So we don't want to cut in at an angle on that face. We want our words to go in perfectly straight. So we're going to use this plane we just created. We're going to change to our front view, sketch, center line, no, I lied, sketch, features tab, extrude cut, select plane 2, sketch tab, offset entities, and we will set this parameter to 1/4 inch, and we're going to offset this bottom edge up, and we are going to select it and set it for construction. We're going to use this as a guideline for where our name is going to go. So I'm going to select this text tool, and where it says curves, I'm going to make sure it's blue. Then I'm going to select that line. Now anything we type is going to be on that line. Whoops. Okay, so I'm going to put in my name, Mr. Good. All caps. Caps will be better. Okay. Then if yours is to the left, you can center it by clicking this button. If yours is upside down, you can flip it right side up. If it is backwards, you can flip it so that it's the correct direction. We do want this to be bigger, so we'll go use document font, and we'll go to font, and we'll change the units so that our name is 3/8 of an inch big. If that's going to make your name too big, then you can go like 1/4 inch. That'll be fine as well. And I'm also going to make it bold. Green check mark. Okay, so there's our name. What we're going to do now is we're going to extrude cut that name into the surface here. So we're going to do a offset from surface. Right here for our face plane, we want to select the face. We want this depth to be 1/32 of an inch. That way the 3D printer shouldn't have any problems without having any support material. And you can see it's not extrude cutting into the part, so if you get to this point and you hit the green check mark, you're going to get an error that says the intended cut does not intersect the model. So what we have to do then is reverse the offset, and now you'll see that that extrude cuts into that surface. Hit the green check mark. Sometimes it takes long because this is a lot of math for SolidWorks to do. And there's your name. My name. There's my name. Alright, and I just want to see what this does here. I haven't tried this, but I just had an idea. This might make it easier for the 3D printer to print. I'm not sure. I just want to see what this looks like. So this might just be a little bit too big. We change that to a 64th of an inch. Let's see what it does. Okay, so it was able to do a 64th of an inch. Curious to see if that changes our depth or not. Yeah, okay, so it's still a 32nd of an inch. Oh wait, no. I want to look at this purple line here. Whoops, where'd it go? Okay, yeah, so it's still a 32nd of an inch. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. That should make it slightly easier for the 3D printer to print, so that way it doesn't necessarily have so much of an overhang. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that a 64th of an inch is actually going to do anything, but it wouldn't hurt. So it may or may not do anything. Okay, so there is our name, my name. The bottom is shelled out like it should be. Okay, so that's good. Let's change this transparency to make this see-through. So if we were going to make it out of something like acrylic, we could do that, acrylic, and it would be clear or transparent. To make this transparent, I don't remember exactly how to do it. It's slightly different from the way I learned how to do this in an older version of SolidWorks. They sort of changed it on me, so I don't remember exactly how to do this. There it is. It's in Illumination. Okay, so if we change if you click on the Illumination tab in the Advanced, you can change the transparency amount. And let's change this transparency amount to, I don't know, what do you think, like 50%? Let's just see what that does. That's a little too transparent. It's gone. Ah, where'd it go? Alright, let's change that. We'll do, oh, okay, well, that's why. Alright, so yeah, there. Okay, so if we were going to make this out of like some acrylic, it would be sort of transparent, or it would be transparent. You'd be able to see through it like that, and that looks kind of cool. And then that way you'd be able to see the rest of the business card, or at least be able to have the idea of what the rest of the business card would look like on the inside of the business card holder. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll set a material type to edit material. And we'll go to plastics, and let's select see if they have PLA. Okay, I'm not seeing PLA specifically, but they have some other variations of it. But let's just select ABS and apply and close, and so there's our business card holder. Alright, cool. So I'm just going to hide that plane just because we don't need it, and let's just, for the heck of it, let's just see how much this thing's going to weigh. So I'm up in the evaluate tab. I selected mass properties, and the mass should be approximately 25 0.55 grams, depending on how big your name is or how much you removed for your name, but it should all be pretty darn close. Alright, so we'll go ahead and we'll save this, and we'll also save it as a .stl file. I'm trying to save it over the business card holder that I showed you in the beginning of the video. Okay, and then I'm also going to go to File, Save As, and this time I'm going to save it as a .stl. And there's our triangulated geometry. And cool, so this is ready to get put into the Cube Pro software to be 3D printed.